What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade basketball analysis coming to y'all with a highly requested video. And it's about Zion Williamson. Obviously, when Zion Williamson was drafted, he was heralded as a future superstar, once in a generation talent by a lot of people. And that's one of the big reasons why he went number one in the draft. He is an all-star last year, averaged over 27 points. The biggest problem, as we all know, and this is why this video is being made, is because Zion hasn't played 90 games in 3 seasons, plus the Pelicans haven't been a playoff team all 3 years that they got Zion. They have some coaching changes with Stan and Alvin Gentry with their new coach now, which we don't know he'll be in the future, Willie Green. Um, this is one of the craziest videos in a long time because it's very, very tough. I am a huge Zion critic. Not because he sucks. Obviously, he was an all-star last year, but he just don't scream franchise to me. And when your best player has the talent and has the potential to be a generation, once in a generation type of player, which Zion has, you know, this is why they was going crazy when they got the number one pick. They was going crazy because of his potential. They was going crazy because of his talent, because of his upside. And Zion haven't gave us enough. Even in his all-star season, he only played 61 games. And on top of that, they never made the playoffs. That year, and then he missed the entire season this year at this point, because even if he comes back, it's less than 20 games at this point. So it's less than 15 games at this point on top of that. So I'm out on Zion. I'm out on Zion. I'm probably going to be the first person to say it. I see a lot of these videos and a lot of these people talking about this because this is probably going to be one of the top 3 biggest free agents within the next 2 years. And it's mainly because of name and because he was an all-star already in the Western Conference when it was still tough, which was last season. And he deserves all that credit. He deserves all of the accolades that he accomplished to this point. And all I can really say is, based off what I done seen within the last 3 seasons, and the fact they haven't even came close to making the playoffs the last 2 years, including this year. And even if they make it, it won't be because of Zion, because it's just too late for him. And even if they do, they're not going to make a run anyway. So the problem with this, and I said this during the trade deadline when CJ trade happened. Like, a lot of people say, well, don't you make the CJ trade to make the show that you're still trying to win? People looked at it that way. Like, they traded a couple guys to get CJ, who is an upgrade over the guys that they traded. And we all agree on that to this point. And a lot of people say, well, now that you traded for CJ, shouldn't that help you, get Zion to come back this year? And clearly there's no indication, and the indication right now is he's not going to play this entire season, which is over in a month at this point. And although the Pelicans right now are currently in the play-in game as of right now, but the season ain't over, so it's not official if they're going to be in the play-in, a month from now. It just shows you how hard it is to give Zion any commitment. The guy has basically done everything that you don't want your franchise player to do. Hasn't played defense. Hasn't been healthy in 3 straight seasons. Only been an all-star once in 1 season, but you still haven't won anything at all as a team with Zion. When you get a number 1 pick, and I say this every single draft when we look at franchise players, your franchise player, and I said this even when Zion got drafted, the biggest question with Zion will be, can he bring this franchise from where they was the bottom, and that's a big reason why they got the number 1 pick, which was their own, because they was bad that year, by the way. Can he turn this franchise into a winning direction? And if your best player, which is Zion still, at this point since he's on the roster, If he can't stay healthy, that doesn't help you win games, especially when you're trying to commit a lot of money after this season possibly to Zion, who hasn't really helped you win at all at this point. In his best season, you didn't win that much. I reiterate that point. Kind of make you wonder, is the Pelicans crazy for offering this extension? So I'll give you one reason why they should. The more money you give Zion, the more quality assets you can get back. The more money you worth contract-wise, the more you can get back in valuable players that can help you win. You got Ingram, and you got CJ. They're under contract for more seasons other than this one. I said this in the trade deadline video to show my consistency. You really don't know how this trio works because Zion hasn't played it at all this year. Next year, he's eligible for this extension by the summer. So you still got a chance after this season is over. You still got next year to see if Zion, Ingram, and McCollum, and whoever else they bring in the draft and in free agency, because it'll be next year, will it work? That's the gauge if you want to keep Zion. Obviously, if you don't want to keep Zion, trading him will be the best. But I'm only trading a player like Zion to get a team, to get pieces that fit around Ingram and CJ. To build a quality team around them. Because once you make a trade for CJ, it's to go into a playoff direction. Unless Zion didn't work, so now you want to get rid of CJ Ingram to tear it all the way down because you don't feel like Ingram and CJ, as we see it now, ain't good enough to compete for a playoff spot. And that's my basis of my opinion of that at the trade deadline. If Zion comes back, the trade makes a lot more sense. But if Zion doesn't come back, it don't make as much sense because CJ just not good enough to lead you to a playoff spot, at this point in his career. And on top of that, you're going to be a playing team to a first-round exit, which means bottom of the West anyway, even if CJ, played to what people thought that he would at the trade deadline. And I was a person that disagreed with it. Ingram is not good enough to be a number one. CJ clearly at this point in his career in his 30s is not good enough to be your number one. It's common sense to everybody that know basketball at this point. So to me, my biggest point is the only way this team could be a legitimate playoff team every single year is Zion going to have to be the best player on this team, which he hasn't really shown that he can help you win games prior to this trade. So obviously the talent is upgraded with CJ. And in my personal opinion, the ceiling for this team is still playing 7th, 8th at best if Zion stays healthy, which he hasn't done his entire career. And that right there lets you know that the Pelicans may be stuck, or honestly just going back into a rebuild. And it's mainly just because if Zion wants to stay, that's your best chance at being a playoff team every year, even if you got to go through the play-in tournament to get a spot. The problem with that is that's not what a franchise player is. He's supposed to change the culture. He's supposed to change the direction. He's supposed to change everything about this team. And obviously the GM and the talent has to be around him, which has been pretty decent for the most part at this point when it comes to what they were trying to do with Zion. But with Zion missing so many games, like I said, 90 games not even played in 3 seasons, it's kind of hard to figure out, like I said, even during the draft and last year when he was All-Star, David Griffin has to figure out how to build a legitimate team around Zion. And if Zion is never healthy long enough to really figure out what works and what doesn't work for me to be able to build a championship team possibly around Zion Williamson, then he's not our guy. The problem is, you was excited, like I said before, to get a number 1 pick. You thought that he was a generational talent, just like a lot of people going into the draft. I wasn't necessarily one of them. I was more of a let it see it play out, wait and see type of guy. And now we are at a point where you're at a crossroad. Do I want to commit and take a gamble? And I'm about to wrap up the video on possibly wanting to give a 4 to 5 year extension, which the Pelicans can give him the 5th year because he plays for the Pelicans. Extension. And I heard people say, do you put incentives in there? Do you give him, a contract with the injury clause, which helps you get out of a long-term commitment financially with Zion? Because then, obviously, you can get out of the contract if he doesn't meet those stipulations in the contract, and then it's not a bad contract anymore because you can get out of it. Will Zion sign that? Obviously, that's something that you have to look at too. You can offer him that contract. Doesn't mean he's going to accept that contract. And a lot of people also ask me, like, Quinn, if you was another team, would you take a gamble on Zion, who has already been an all-star, you know, before? And the question will be, what is his role? And I always gave Zion his fair credit in that regard. We know Zion is a guy, when he's healthy, he is a difference maker when it comes to numbers. This guy can put up numbers. It will really be predicated on a fit. What team will he go to? Will he be the second option? Will he be the third option? What will his role be on that particular team? That all will be something you will have to think about if you're bringing in Zion via trade, or if he takes a qualifying offer, which he can do. He can obviously enter unrestricted free agency in 2023 and then sign whatever team he wants to, 4 years max at that point, instead of the 5th year that the Pelicans can offer him, and then, he can get out of the Pelicans. The problem that I also wanted to continue to address to a lot of people that keep asking this question, if Zion isn't committed to this team, if Zion doesn't want to be a part of this team, if Zion don't really believe in this organization and the direction that they're going to go in, he's going to ask for a trade anyway. He's going to take the qualifying offer anyway, and he's going to be out of there. I've been strong standing on that point since he's been drafted. I haven't been advocating that Zion is going to leave. It's just more of a well-known thing when you look at the Pelicans. You look at Baron Davis. You look at Chris Paul, who gave everything he could to the Pelicans, even helped them get to the playoffs, and he was out of there. You look at Anthony Davis. He was the number 1 pick. He got them to the playoffs. Never won a playoff series, and then he was out of there. Also, would they beat Portland 1 year, and that was the furthest that he ever got in the playoffs. Then he went and left to LA and won a championship. Chris Paul obviously was in the finals last year with Phoenix. We don't really know where his career is going to end because it's still going on. So I just wanted to paint that picture to all the fans. These guys are not obligated to stay to these teams. Once he asks for a trade, once he signs once he takes the qualifying offer, or once his contract is up, because he doesn't have to sign an extension either, he can leave. This isn't you're forced to stay. You have to stay. We're going to do everything to force you to stay. If you don't want to stay, just like every other team, every other player, you have the option to go. That's what free agency is. That's what asking for a trade is. That's what turning down the contract and then it expires and you become a free agent to go where the fuck you want to go. You know what I mean? So I've always been honest about the Zion situation. When you're drafted, usually, back in the day, some players got out of it, but usually these players go to these bad teams and stick it out and sign the extension. Now players are asking for trades this generation, this era, more than ever. It's more normal, it's more comfortable, it's more accepted now more than ever. And this is something that's well known for everybody. So to me, that was the toughest thing for the Pelicans. They was excited to have him, but he came in with injuries right away. And that's been the hugest problem with Zion's career. It's not to me that he's overweight. It's to me that he can't stay on the court at all. Like, literally. And if that's the case, do I really, really think I can win the title with a guy that's never available? No. Now, I know it's the optimists out there, which is fine, because it could happen. We don't think about a lot of players in NBA history that maybe Zion figures it out mentally. Maybe he gets, you know, a good run of health for a couple years, and we don't know if the team will win. We don't know how far they'll get, but maybe he's young, not even 25 or close to it at this point. Maybe it is that one team that gets lucky that Zion actually stays healthy and get benefits from it. We don't know if it will happen. It's possible, yeah, but we also don't know for sure if it will. But even then, you still have to give him a contract and a commitment financially for him to stay for that long stretch of time. And even then, you still counting on the obvious that he can't stay healthy. But to me, I would probably say no to the Pelicans. If I was the Pelicans, I probably won't give him the extension. He gave me every single reason not to. The fact that he hasn't stayed healthy, he's so young that he hasn't learned how to win because he hasn't won, hasn't been on the court enough to win. Plus, his team is not really constructed for him to win. You know, and then, after the CJ trade, they haven't even played together yet to even figure out if that trade was even worth making, which we will mostly, like I said, have to figure out next season. But then that's the contract extension season. It's just a mess right now. Like, this Zion situation is a mess. But the question to me, to answer it, he's going to be out the Pelicans. And I don't even really blame the Pelicans. I'm looking at it right now from a Pelicans perspective as a GM. I don't think I want Zion at this point. He's just too fragile, too damaged at this point. Like, the only real reason why you will give Zion an extension is to trade him. And this is what I was trying to tell y'all for like the last 5 to 10 years at this point that I've been doing this. Asset management. You give him the contract so that way you can get the best return. If you got a player like Zion under contract, which they have the chance to do, you can still trade him for something back and then figure out the direction later after the trade. Whether it's building with Ingram and CJ, whether it's getting more assets for getting rid of Zion and CJ and Ingram, or whatever they want to do, the best thing that they could do from an asset management point of view will be to give Zion an extension. Teams will be more willing to take a gamble, like we've seen with Porzingis and a lot of other, all-star, superstar potential players around his age that are already moved or traded. You're willing to give a guy that gamble if they're under contract. Like we done seen throughout the years, it's always a way, to some way, amnesty clause, because every team, every decade, they're able to amnesty a player every decade, and by this being 2020, it's a new decade to be able to amnesty. Obviously, if the trade don't work, depending on the contract extension, you can get non-guaranteed years, partial guaranteed years, however the contract is drawn up if Zion decides to accept it. Um, you know, that's something that they should definitely should look at. But in my personal opinion, the best thing for the Pelicans to do when you look at it from an asset management standpoint is get the best contract you can get out of Zion. If he plays well enough, you can trade him for more if he's under extension than he would be under a rookie contract. When you look at Zion rookie contract next year, it's $11 million that Zion will be making. If he takes the qualifying offer, he will get a no trade clause. So you couldn't trade him anyway unless he wanted to be traded. That contract will be worth $17 million. Now, if you're able to negotiate a contract with Zion and reach one that could be possible 5 years, even if he gets healthy, you can keep him a little longer. Even if he wants to get traded, you'll get more in return. And even if he does blow up on another team, they'll be willing to take him because he's under contract. They'll take the gamble. They'll take the chance. If it's a team out there that's willing to do it, they'll be more willing to do it if he's already under contract. And like I said, depending on the contract, it'll still be movable. It'll still be amnestiable. It'll still be waivable depending on the year. And that team can get out of it too. And the Pelicans can get their assets back and get rid of Zion and go in a different direction. So, to me, Zion hasn't proven to be a franchise guy as he hasn't made the playoffs yet. Hasn't even been healthy enough to see if you can build a franchise around him, which is a big problem when that's supposed to be a franchise player. He is currently their best player, but it's just so hard to build a legitimate team around a guy that doesn't play enough to figure out what works and doesn't work around him. So David Griffin probably going to get fired anyway, but to even look at it from his perspective, it's hard to build a championship team around my team. I mean, it's hard to build a championship team around a player that just isn't available to play. I mean, it is very, very difficult to do. And like I said, the CJ trade made sense if Zion decided to come back this year, which, at this point now we know that he's not. So that just makes it even tougher to be motivated to want to keep Zion here. So, Pelican fans was excited to get Zion. Now they're probably honestly more excited to move on from him because he has just been, the opposite of what you expected. And that's not a franchise changing generational talent these first 3 years of his career. Now, like I said, the extension don't matter as much because they can sign even next summer, which will be 2023. So I'm still in the camp of play it out next year with CJ, Brandon Ingram, and whatever you do in the draft and whatever you do in free agency. If he looks better, if he don't, that gives you more reason to move on from him. If he doesn't, if he looks better, you give him the extension. You can still trade him for more assets in the future, be on a long-term contract, be more attractive to somebody that want to take a gamble on him. They take the gamble, you get rid of them for the assets, and then you go in a different direction. And Zion, whatever happens in his career, he's off your roster. You don't have to worry about it for better or worse. You won't know until the trade is made, and then you just live with it. So to answer the question, I don't want him as my franchise guy. You felt like that when you drafted him. He had the potential. He had the talent. He had the upside. 3 years later, hasn't really come to reality. Hasn't led to wins. Hasn't led to a playoff berth. Haven't led to a deep playoff run just yet. To me, the best decision is to make it next year, even if it takes the whole season, even if it takes next summer. I mean, and I said that even about Bradley Beal. I said that even about other talents that's in this league. And I said that even with the Harden trade. You don't have to make it right now. If you do, your decision. Yeah, I live with it. They want to trade Zion faster. Why they got an offer that they like, they can do it. They want to hold on to it, they can do it. Even if they want to do an extension and do it 2-3 years from now, because you can sign a 5-year extension, they can do it. It's really not as much of a rush that people think. And like I said, even with the qualifying, you can exhaust all your options before you send him the qualifying offer. And then you can still accept offers before you trade them, before you send them a qualifying offer, which means if the best offer comes to the table, you can still make it before you give them the qualifying offer, which means you can still get assets for him anyway. So I'm in the camp of I don't believe he's a franchise guy. Move on from him, however long it take, however quick you need to do it. The Pelicans got to make the best decision for them and their organization and wherever direction they choose to go in. We'll see. Obviously, most likely next year, if they want to keep him, they want to give him an extension, or if they just want to move out of the situation. But Zion has not made the situation any better. Missing the entire year, and then showing no commitment or not even wanting to be here at all from day one to now. And then, missing the entire season with just a cherry on the cake that this guy just might not be it. Now, I heard people compare the Joel Embiid story, but I even think that's more or less different because he was committed and wanted to be in Philly. Zion has showed the complete opposite with the Pelicans. So, maybe the CJ trade wasn't the trade that they needed to make. But like I said, I'm more of a let's see what they do in the summer. Let's see what they do next year and really gauge if this trio works, if this trio is worth investing in, if this trio is worth building around. If not, off season next year, they can go in a different direction with or without Zion. They know for sure then what to do, and we'll see what they do then. So I'm out on Zion. for the Pelicans. I'm not out on him as a great player. I'm not out on him as a difference maker. I'm just out on him being a franchise guy. Can he be a 2? Can he be a 3? Can he be a great fit for another team? Maybe. But as the best player on the team, leading me to a title, as of right now, I'm out. And if I'm out on that, plus he hasn't stayed healthy, plus even when he stayed healthy, he didn't help you make it to playoffs either. That's more red flags to saying that this isn't a franchise guy for you. So we'll see what the Pelicans do. But to answer the question, I'm out on Zion as my franchise player. For another team, we'll see what they do with him if they decide to trade him. We'll see if he can change his mentality, his ways, his play, possibly his weight too, which none of those things he have decided to change so far. So that's another red flag that he might not be the guy to lead your franchise anywhere. But, we'll see what the future holds. Will he be out the league? Will he make a comeback and be an all-star again? Will he just be a great complementary piece for another team? Will he make the playoffs? This is a wait-and-see thing for Zion. Career not looking great, not looking amazing at this point. But like I said, he's still younger than 25. Still has some type of, upside for superstardom if the injuries ain't as severe as what they was reported to be, which we really don't know at this point. But other than that, I'm out on Zion as a franchise guy at this point. But, I'm probably not out on him having, a great, unsuperstar, unfranchised player career. I'm going to wait and see on that one. But other than that, Quinn Wade, basketball analysis signing out. Hopefully I'll see y'all tomorrow. Good night. Do y'all thing.